In this video, I will show you how to retrofit a lighting system onto your e-bike that is equipped with a Yamaha PW-X3 or PW-S2 motor. To complete the retrofit, you will need the usual tools such as a reliable Allen key set and of course a suitable light cable for the Yamaha PW-X3 or PW-S2 motor. You will also need two Scotch lock connectors to securely join the light wires, and naturally a compatible headlight and, if you wish, a matching tail light as well. When selecting the appropriate lighting system, you need to make absolutely sure that the lights are fully compatible with a 12-volt system, because the PW-X3 and the PW-S2 both run on a 12-volt power source at the light output. This is a difference from the previous Yamaha models, which used a 6-volt system. Additionally, when choosing the right light, you must ensure that the maximum power drawn by the lighting system does not exceed a total of 24 watts. You have to keep in mind that the peak power consumption of both the headlight and the tail light are added together, which means that the total combined power draw of both lights must not exceed a maximum of 24 watts. In our particular case, we have decided to use the Sigma EOX 170 light as our lighting solution. This one has a maximum power consumption of 12 watts, which means we could also retrofit another tail light or another headlight, whoever might want to do that, with up to 12 watts, so we still have plenty of room to play with. With tail lights, it's usually the case that they aren't as powerful. We're typically talking about a maximum of 2 to 4 watts, especially if it has a brake light function, so pay particular attention to the headlights. Before we can begin with the actual connection of the lighting system, we first have to expose the connections on the motor so that we can connect something there. For this, it's always recommended to remove the battery first, simply so the system isn't live with power. This ensures your safety and also makes the bike significantly lighter, which is a huge advantage when you're handling it on the repair stand. Otherwise, the next step is to remove all the parts that are blocking your path to the connections. In this case, that's mainly the motor cover, which is split into two parts. The large skid plate that runs underneath the motor, and then a smaller one that covers the connections. And in our case, we also had to remove the frame grommets so that we have enough space there to run the light cable through. Now at this point, we can go ahead and carefully run the light cable from the headlight, which is suitably long for this purpose, from the handlebar all the way down to the motor. To do this, we'll first need to mount the single arm bracket together with the light so that the light is securely and firmly mounted on the handlebar. Then we'll try to run it carefully through the frame, and using a piece of binding wire or a somewhat stronger string is highly recommended here. So I'll first just carefully run the wire through the frame, because with internally routed cables like this, it's always very difficult and quite tricky to actually thread it through. You need to have a little bit of patience here, as you really have to see exactly where the cables are running. Once you have carefully pulled the binding wire all the way through from the top to the bottom, you can attach the lamp's light cable to the end of the wire near the handlebar and gently pull it through the frame together with the binding wire. Always be a bit careful there so it doesn't tear off and you don't break anything else. Maybe also move the whole thing back and forth a bit. That usually helps, so you can get it out down here at the motor, relatively easy peasy. Now we can go ahead and connect the lamp to the light cable from Yamaha. As mentioned at the beginning, we're using Scotch lock connectors for this, which are super practical. You just have to carefully insert the strands, or to be more precise, the wires that are of the same color, into the Scotch lock connector. In this case, that's black to black and red to blue, simply because the positive wire here is marked with both blue and red colors. At this point, the Scotch lock connectors have three inputs. Here, if you wanted to add a taillight, you could also connect its black wire and its positive wire into the corresponding Scotch lock connectors. So you have three options and can also supply power to two light sources that way. In this example, we only want to retrofit a headlight. For the rear, we'll just use a battery-powered light. For a mountain bike, this is a bit more suitable in my opinion. Insert the strands into the Scotch lock connectors until they really hit the stop at the top of the connectors, and then we can just squeeze the whole thing together with a pair of pliers. Here I always recommend stripping the ends anyway, even if it's not strictly necessary, because the thin insulation is often pierced by the Scotch lock connectors, but I found that it doesn't always work reliably. So just strip them briefly. You can either strip them with a Knipex tool like this or with a lighter, and then connect them with the Scotch lock connectors. Now all we have to do is plug the connector from the Yamaha light connection into the motor. That's this one all the way on the left in the picture. There's usually a small dummy plug in there. Just take that out and plug in the connector. It clicks in properly, and then we've already connected the system to the headlight. Now, I recommend doing a quick test run first, meaning briefly install the battery and turn the whole thing on once to see if everything is really working. If that's the case, you can now reassemble everything. So stow the cables nicely in the frame so they don't get kinked too much, but also don't interfere with the cover in any way. Then carefully screw the motor covers back on, screw on the skid plate at the bottom, reinsert the battery if you didn't leave it in, put the battery cover on, and finally reinstall the frame grommets if you removed them. And then we have the whole thing connected. Now we can properly align the headlight, and in this case also mount the high beam button on the handlebar so we're ready to go, and then we've done a really cool retrofit. Here with this lamp from Sigma, we have the special feature that there's a USB-C port on the back of the lamp, which we could also use to charge our smartphone. If you want to know more about that, then check out this video. If you still have any questions about retrofitting a lighting system on a Yamaha system, feel free to write them in the comments. I'll be sure to answer them there. All the parts you need for this, the headlights, suitable taillights, the light cable, you can of course find in our shop. We'd be happy if you support us a bit and place your order there. And we'd also appreciate it if you support us with a subscription, and then I'll look forward to seeing you here again soon.